Now it's my privilege to introduce the wonderful, gorgeous, generous, vivacious, energetic Allyson Hewitt, our thinker in residence. Allyson doesn't like people rabbiting on about her introduction, so I will try and keep it brief, Allyson. But she has assisted hundreds of social ventures to become economically sustainable and increase their social impact. Often we meet people who are very good at narrow channels of communication and conversation, but Allyson has got it covered. So please use this as a great opportunity to talk to Allyson after this event about B-corps and about social innovation. So welcome to the stage, Allyson Hewitt.
That lovely person couldn't make it, so they've sent me, but it's all good. So thank you very much for being here. Really, really pleased to be at Open State. So how many people have not heard me speak? Okay, great. Love to have a new audience. So I'm sending you greetings from Mars. Mars is the Medical and Related Sciences building in Toronto, in Canada. It's an innovation hub. And if you look at the brown bit in the middle, you'll see that that is an old hospital site. It's the Toronto General Hospital that was decommissioned. See where I'm going with this? Right? It was decommissioned, and a bunch of folks said, what should we do with it? Let's turn it into flats or condominiums. And one really visionary guy said, I don't think so. The first clinical trials for insulin were held in this building. We can turn this into an innovation hub. And we've since expanded on it. Now it's 1.5 million square feet, or about 140,000 square meters. It's a very cool, neutral place for innovation to happen. And I'm hoping that some of the lessons we had there might be applicable for folks who are thinking about the old raw site and what we can do with that to turn it into a beacon of innovation here in Adelaide. So let me tell you how B Corps came into my life. A bunch of MBA students said, we're thinking about creating this enterprise. We're going to call it Better the World. And we've been looking about online, and we saw this thing called B Corps. You ever heard of it? Nope. Well, we're thinking if we're going to incorporate as a B Corp, we need some legal advice. Can you help us with that? Sure can. So I'm going to get you some legal advice, and that's the value of this neutral hub, on the premise that it'll be made available to everybody. So they said, okay, we're going to go for that. So we went about and got some legal advice, and we found this. In 2008, a landmark BCE case, case number 1976, the Supreme Court of Canada held, in considering what is in the best interest of the corporation, directors may look to the interest of, inter alia, shareholders, employees, creditors, consumers, government, and the environment to inform their decisions. Essentially what this means is that in Canada, corporations can consider stakeholder interest instead of shareholder primacy. You will tell me what the law is in Australia. Is it like this or is it different? Who knows? I'm sorry, it's uncertain. It's uncertain. Room for innovation. Right? That's what we do. We grab these opportunities. So this was huge for us because in the US, it is shareholder primacy. And so what has to happen when you become a B Corp? You have to change your articles of incorporation to indicate that you will consider more than shareholder interest. In fact, you will consider stakeholder interest. So in Canada, we were protected. So with this legal advice, we were free to start promoting B Corps and see what would happen. So we decided that we would incubate this, and this is the value again of a neutral hub. We can incubate these kind of programs until they get legs of their own. They don't have to incorporate, they don't have to do anything. We can just muck about with it to see what happens. So we set up B-Lab Canada, and we held on to it at Mars and put it as part of our impact investing group. And then we worked very closely with B-Labs to when we got to a certain point, and like Australia, Canada's about 10% of the global B Corps, always has been. And we said, okay, B-Lab, we would like you to actually hire a person to run Canada, and they can live at Mars. Leverage the benefits, leverage what's going on in there. So I encourage you to think of these kind of creative models. You don't have to do it all on your own. You can leverage what exists. One of the ways we decided to use the B Corp platform was in something that we call the SVX. When we set up the SVX, it stood for the Social Venture Exchange. And then the Securities Commission got a hold of it and said, you can't call it an exchange. Only we can call things an exchange. So now we call it the Social Venture Connection by sticking an X in there, which makes no sense, but everybody knows what it is. So essentially, it's a matching platform for impact investors and impact ventures. So in the world of impact investing, hopefully people know, historically, we took one hand, we made a donation to a charity, that was 100% gone. We reached in with the other hand and we said, okay, we're gonna invest for maximum impact. The world of impact investing is bringing those hands together. How do I invest for social and financial return? What are the opportunities to realize that in a blended value space? So we're very busy growing the impact investing world, very busy growing the pipeline of impact ventures, but they had nowhere to meet eHarmony for impact investing. So we brought them together online, and this is what it looks like. But in order to be listed on the SVX, we needed to figure out who was eligible. We didn't want people to come on and say, yes, I'm very good for the environment, and in fact, they were only greenwashing. So we decided to use B-Analytics. GEARS is something called the Global Impact Rating Standards. They work very closely with the B-Analytics, and that gave us a way to say, these people have gone through a set of standards, they're therefore qualified to be listed on the SVX. So it was the tool that we found globally that enabled the growth of that. This is one of our impact investors. His name is Bill Young. He runs something called Social Capital Partners, and I'll just read you his quote. A certification process on social business helps an investor who wants to do that kind of thing, make impact investing, but doesn't have the time themselves or the means to really test the legitimacy of the social purpose. It's a valuable service to know that someone has done that. When you're trying to grow a new field like impact investing, if you have the opportunity to make it easy to do the right thing, that's what you do. B-corp, B-lab, B-analytics has enabled us to do that. So Mindy talked a little bit about the difference between a certified B-corp and a benefit corporation, and it's really important because the B-corp is the certification and the benefit corporation or benefit company is actually a corporate structure. In Canada, I have been unsuccessful in trying to get the benefit corporation structure in place, and it's not been for lack of trying. And part of the issue is that people don't know what problem we're fixing. So unless we know exactly what the rationale is for the benefit corporation, it's not going to happen. In the UK, they have things like KICs, or community interest companies. In the US, they have LC3s, low-profit limited liability corporations. Canada has 10 provinces. In 2 of the 10 provinces, we have similar kinds of structure. And the public sector is getting too confused. Why do I need a benefit corporation when I've got these other emerging structures? Why doesn't the nonprofit work? Why doesn't the for-profit work? So those of us that are in this space and doing this work have to work very hard and being clear on what problem is that we're solving before this benefit corporation gets picked up. And that's one of the things I'm looking forward to see what happens in Australia and how that happens. But Mindy's point is really good. I'll tell you a story about one of our B Corps. She was running an artisanal cheese company. Is everything artisanal here too? Like, right, okay, good. Okay, artisanal cheese company. And she was really big on LEED certified, everything, she was all in. And then she got divorced and she lost the business. And her husband said, this B Corp stuff is nonsense. It's just nonsense. I'll say fair trade and organic, but I'm not buying all of this. And he totally wiped it out. If she had been a benefit corporation, it would have been much harder for him to do that. But just as someone with a B Corp certification, he just didn't follow up on it anymore. And it was nasty, but they're all better now. This is what we did at the government level. So at the province of Ontario, we launched Impact, which is a social enterprise strategy, and we tried to make sure that any relationship around B Corps was included in there. This isn't a social innovation strategy, it's a social enterprise strategy because that's where the province of Ontario was at. So my big lesson here is finding the levers that are existing, finding where the energy is, and going to that to make an impact. We also try to run an annual social finance conference, which is again bringing together those impact investors and those impact investees. And this is the 10th annual one that's coming up in November. And we make sure always to have B Corp on that agenda and make sure that people are hearing the message over and over and over so it becomes in the common vernacular. A quick little story. For a while, we had the world's largest B Corp, BDC, or the Business Development Bank of Canada. This is the bank that supports entrepreneurs. This guy is Craig Ryan. He leads up CSR. I went to speak to him just generally about social innovation, B Corps, that kind of thing. He had a superstar in his audience, and she said, I love what you're doing. Can I please come and hang out at the Center for Impact Investing and learn more about all of this? Absolutely. We love free work. So she came and worked for us as an intern. They paid her. That works for me. And when she went back, she was the intrapreneur within BDC that got them excited about the concept of B-corp. And they bought it and they ran with it. And they're very proud to be B-corps. And coming up next, we have something called Be Inspired. You can have a lot of fun with the B, right? So Be Inspired. And this is the global conference, and Mindy's going to come to this conference in Toronto, October 5th, if anybody wants to get on a flight and head over there. It's going to be very exciting. And if you look in the bottom corner, you'll see who it's sponsored by. Right? So once you hook these folks, they can become sponsors and play with you in a way that's incredibly engaging. And I just want to say that my friend Sarah Gunn just came in, and Sarah's staff, Go-Go Events, who you see running all over the place and doing amazing work here, are also on their way to be B-Corp and to be certified in that. So I just wanted to point out Sarah and say congratulations. She's going to be an awesome contribution to the movement. And finally, this is a picture of Joyce. Joyce runs the B-Lab in Canada. She's pregnant. Our future matters. That's why we've got to do this. We've got to figure it out, and I thank you very much for your time.